Good morning and welcome to the show, and thanks for watching and Happy New Year. Here we are, a new year, and the family budget, tax time, financial advice. Maybe you should be thinking in that direction, setting a plan for the new year. But I have some tax tips from Laura from A-List Accounting. Laura Nelson, welcome back to the show. You know, you sent me an email last night with tax myths, and some of these were actually kind of comical, but there are some myths that people actually believe.
Yeah.
And let's do some myth busting here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I know myth number one was filing taxes is voluntary. Is there someone out there who really believes that?
I don't know, but yeah, there are some, but ideally, no, it's not voluntary.
Yeah,
it's required.
Yeah, and then here's another myth. It says you can claim pets as dependents. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I've heard of people trying to do it, but yeah, it's not going to work.
So,
but no,
I know you consider your pet like a family member,
yes,
and you spend money on your pet for, you know, perhaps grooming and veterinarian fees and things like that,
correct,
but you can't claim that.
Nope, you can't.
Now, what are some of the ones that you've personally run into that you've had to bust?
I don't think any of them.
No?
Other than,
oh,
well,
good. So your clients are smarter than the average people who.
well, other than the home office one, to where people
yeah,
automatically think that it's an instant audit just by using it.
Oh.
And because it's becoming so prevalent, there's a lot of people working from home now. It's not as, in the past, yes, it was something
So a
that
common
they did.
myth in the past was if you make the home office deduction or you claim the home office, it triggers an audit.
Yes, you're looked at a little more closer.
But that's not necessarily so nowadays.
Right, because there's more people doing it now, so therefore, you know, the more they have to look at, the less they're going to.
Safety in numbers when it comes to the
Exactly.
IRS. You're not such
Yes.
an outlier
Yes.
then,
Yeah.
you know.
And you just want to stay within the standard guidelines of their home office expenses, but other than that, you should be fine.
But if you're running a home business like I am, there's no reason in the world you shouldn't claim that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you're spending your money, you're doing your work there. I mean, why the heck not?
Exactly.
Here's a couple other here too. It's like myth number 4, illegal activity is not taxable. So if I knock over a liquor store, that's not taxable.
Yes, and in the theft size, it's not, because
Yeah.
you know. But yes, any money acquired, no matter how you get it, selling drugs, stealing, whatever.
Lest we forget, that's how we got Al Capone back in the day.
That's right.
From tax evasion, from ill-gotten gains.
Exactly. So you're just taking a chance at getting caught. I mean, you know, it'll come back around.
So besides criminal charges, you don't have to pay taxes on all that
Yes.
dope money or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy when you think about it? Because the IRS will come after you for
Yes,
it, won't they?
yes, yeah.
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 Beside you being in jail, adding
Right.
insult to injury,
Right.
they'll be like, okay, you know.
So say you get busted and they catch you with so much cash, then you got the IRS after you. So not
That's
only
true.
do you have the, you know, your police after you, now you got the IRS. So
as if things could get worse. Here's another one. Students don't have to pay taxes.
yes, a lot of children, you know, or well, not necessarily children, anyone under 18 that's, you know, working, and if they make less than $9,000 a year, they do not have to file their tax return. But if they paid into the government, more than likely they'll get it all back in withholding. So they need to look at that and not just assume they don't need to file, because they could actually get that back.
So even though you didn't make a lot of money as a student, maybe with a part-time job, you still file taxes, maybe get a return.
Right. If your withholdings box has money in it, then you're going to want to file, because you could get that back.
And if you don't file, the IRS would be glad to keep your money and not give you a return.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not going to tell you about it.
Laura Nelson from A-List Accounting, thank you so much for Tax Tips with Laura. And we hope to see you again here next week to get some more tax tips, because it's that season.
That's right. All
And
right.
we'll be right back after your local weather. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with my friend Vonda Gaynor, otherwise known as Vonda the Coupon Queen, to get some money-saving tips from the lady who knows it all, or at least knows a lot about saving money for families and elderly people and young people and everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is a really easy tip. Everybody can do this. When you go to the store, any store, look at the bottom of your receipt for either money saving coupons like $5 off 25, or for a survey where you can receive something for free. So I'll give an example. Shop at Dollar General. when your receipt prints, look at the bottom. Typically, there is a $5 off $25 coupon that you can come back and use for a later date. Well, what you want to do is, if you have coupons, bring your regular coupons back to the store with you. That can equate to not only receiving the $5 off 25, so you're already at getting $25.
From your receipt.
Yeah, from the receipt. You're already at getting $25 worth of items for 20. But if you have manufacturer's coupons to go with the items that you're buying, you could end up paying nothing but tax.
Wow.
And if you don't have regular coupons, head to the clearance section. Always go to the clearance section at all stores that you shop at.
And because you find bargains there
can
as
find
well,
bargains
of course.
there.
You know,
Yes.
and it's funny because a lot of us ignore our receipts.
Yeah.
I mean, I do at least. I
Yes.
mean, I look, thanks, I'll stuff it in my wallet, and then I'll hand it to Karen.
Yeah, Preston.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and she'll
Preston does.
log it in or whatever, you know. But I never really look at the flip side. And I know Home Depot is one of those too, where they've got a little survey thing. They always want you to take a
Yes.
survey, but you can get stuff if you register with it.
Exactly.
So you really got to be involved with your purchases,
Yes.
not just while you're shopping for a
Shopping.
bargain, but afterwards.
And
So-
it's everywhere. I mean, restaurants, everywhere. Start looking at the bottom of your receipts.
Well, that's some really wise advice. And the clearance section. Now, when I think clearance, I think clothes for some reason. I always think like clothing stores.
Clothing stores, grocery stores, the drug stores, everywhere. Everywhere. Everybody has a clearance section. Meats, and look at tags. A lot of stores they have a color-coded tag system. So some grocery stores, the tags, they're orange, or they'll say closeout. That means you're going to get it at a heavily discounted price.
So always read your tags.
Yes.
Even when you're in the clearance section, when you think it's a bargain, you know. Now,
true.
you know, I know some people, like, you might go to places and say, sorry, you can't have 2 discounts on the same item. There's an education process there with some of the vendors too, with some
It
of the
is.
stores.
And you just have to learn the store's policies. At most grocery stores, you can. At most drug stores, you can. The dollar stores, you can. So it just depends on the store. You have to know the store's policy.
So some stores will honor
Will
2
honor two-
coupons.
yeah.
Some will say, sorry, it's already
It's already-
discounted.
yes.
And you just have to be smart going in.
Exactly.
Is that very time consuming though?
No. If you want to learn how to coupon the right way, or just save money in general the right way, no. But if you're looking to get 100 boxes of cat food, it's going to be time consuming because you're going to be consistently online looking for a way to try to get something for free. But if you just want to realistically save money, no, it's
Yeah.
not.
So a good way to start though is to seek you out on Facebook.
Yes.
And we just look for Vonda Gaynor.
Yep, look for me. I'm very interactive.
Yeah, Vonda Gaynor, the coupon
The
queen.
coupon queen.
And we can get some tips right from your Facebook page.
Yes.
And also we could sign up for one of your classes too if we wanted to.
Absolutely.
Vonda, the coupon queen, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on the show and getting us smart on this money-saving tip for the week.
Thank you, Don.
And we'll be right back.
I'm Jay with Gears.
Hey, I'm Wesley.
Today's tech tip is going to be a discussion about noises and a little bit about your transmission. About 9 months ago, my aunt, her van blew a motor. And I'm going to interview Wesley right now and ask him a few questions about that. Wesley, I find it hard to believe that the motor just blew up. Did it give you any indication that it was bad?
I guess if you call like a ticking noise, it was like tick tick tick, something like a tick 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 tock or something like that.
Okay. Did you hear it all the time?
I did till I turned the radio up. I turned the radio up to keep from hearing it. It was annoying.
That's one tip we'll go ahead and express to you today. If you hear a noise, don't increase the volume on your radio. Swing it by a local ASC certified or Napa Center like we are, and you know now not to adjust the volume. The second tip I'm going to give you is servicing your car's transmission. Transmissions, believe it or not, do need to be serviced like oil changes. But if you're having an existing problem, don't service it. The next couple of tips will go into detail about transmission services. But this is a good additive that we use called BG Quick Clean. It's an additive that we add to all of our transmission services. It cleans the valve body, cleans the transmission, brings it back to like it's new. It's a BG product, and exclusive dealers throughout Panama City have it, so we're not the only shop. But in the next couple of tech tips, we'll tell you more about your transmission's maintenance. So today we want it to mainly make sure that you what don't you do?
Don't turn up the radio when it goes tickety-tockety.
Please don't turn up your radio when you hear noise.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Heather Noyes from Raymond James Financial, and we're going over some financial resolutions that you should make. Heather, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
We went over 3 financial resolutions last week. What were they?
Just to recap, get your balance sheet in order, so your assets versus your liability, have a grasp on what those are. Look at your budget and your spending habits.
Number 2 is looking at your budget.
And then the last is look at the titling of your accounts. So again, review how everything's titled and make sure it's appropriate for
It's in
your
the right
current
name.
situation. Right,
Okay.
correct.
So we've got 3 of those resolutions out of the way, but there's a whole bunch more. What's number 4?
Absolutely. Number 4 is looking at your beneficiaries. It kind of goes hand in hand with looking at the titling.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had a life change, maybe a divorce or a marriage or a death in the family, then it might not be as necessary. But I always like to bring this up because I see it so many times where they've got an ex-husband or an ex-wife listed as a beneficiary on an account, and most often it's done at the employer level. So if they have a 401k at work or a group life insurance policy, those get overlooked easily. So
yeah, you got to go to your HR department and have all that changed, and and it doesn't even have to be a giant life change, but you know, times change, relationships change. Sometimes people come and go out of your life, and it's important to.
Sure, or kids don't do what you want them to do, and so you want to like
write them out of the will.
Write them out of the will. Make a few changes in that
like
area.
Like that DNS and I'm warning you, Nicholas. No, anyway, not that I have anything to leave him, but anyway. So that's a good thing. So check your beneficiaries.
Yes.
Okay, and what would be the 5th one?
Evaluate your cash holdings. Now, when I say cash, I mean it's money that you have for immediate use for emergencies. You want to have, depending on your situation, between 3 and 6 months of outflows. So whatever your cost of living is every month, you want to have at least 3 months if you're dual income. So if you're married and you have someone else working in your home. If you don't have someone else working in your home, then you want to have 6 months. Or if you're a single person, you want to have 6 months. Because if you were to lose your job or become incapacitated, that you've got the ability to sustain
Just
for
have
a while.
that in savings.
Right. And then if you have, again, if you're married and both of you are working, 3 months is generally enough because one can take up the slack of the other. But again, that's of outflows. That's not of income.
And that's not to be confused with an emergency fund, is it?
Well, sort of, yeah.
Kinda?
Yeah, it
because,
is.
you know, sometimes, you know, the car needs tires or whatever, or brakes, or kid needs braces or whatever. You should always have a little something that you can reach back to when something happens. Like my mother said, you know, it's always something, and it is.
And on cash, holdings, they did change the FDIC limits to where there's insurance on your cash at a bank, where they're FDIC insured up to $250,000. If you have money over $250,000 in cash at the bank, then
it's
or
vulnerable,
CDs,
isn't it?
then you need to either spread the money out to another bank, and they're not paying very much interest either on cash.
So it really isn't worth it to keep that much cash on hand.
Absolutely not.
So only keep what you really need to keep in that. What did you call that? Contingency fund or
just an
savings?
emergency, savings account,
Savings
just to have
account.
cash wherever may
Okay.
be. The last is to revisit your portfolio's asset allocation. Over the last couple of years, for example, the S&P was up about 32% in 2013. It was up 13% last year. And so if you haven't revisited your allocation, you know, your U.S. stock portion of your portfolio could have overtaken basically your other asset classes. So let's say, for example, you're like, I'm going to keep about 30% in bonds and 70% in stocks. Because I'm comfortable with that amount of risk that I'm taking in my portfolio. Well, over the last couple of years, if you haven't evaluated that asset allocation and made any changes to it, it's very, very likely that you're more like 90% in stocks now and only 10 in bonds because of the amount of growth that we've had from the stock side of
Sure.
things.
So you may have to readjust that because of all the gains that you've made. You probably need to step back and say, well, let's keep those in. But wouldn't you want to keep it in something
that keeps
growing?
going? Yeah.
I mean, you get
I
the
agree.
fever, it's like, keep it going. You know?
Well, that's where risk comes in, and that may be the case because people's risk tolerance, it does change.
That's
When things
true.
are going good, hey, I'm going to be a little bit more risky now. But as soon as we get, a drop or a pullback in the market, their risk tolerance kind of goes back to, I want to be a little bit more conservative. So, but again, it really depends on the individual.
So financial resolutions, we should all have them, shouldn't we, this
Right.
year? Okay, well, we'll get some more
Get
from
them
you
all
next
in
week,
shape.
maybe, all right?
All right,
All right.
sounds
We
good.
got 6 of them down. And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dan Hines from Hines Coaching. And Dan, you're going to tell us how to set some financial goals or how to
Yes.
handle our family budget for the year?
Absolutely. So what we talked about last week was in order to get financially fit for 2015, there's 3 major things you need to do. One was set a goal, the second is to start budgeting, and the third is to have an emergency fund. So today what we'll talk about is that first step is setting a goal, because in the end, a lot of families, when they try to start budgeting, that's well-intentioned, but if they don't have a goal, if you don't have a finish line that you're starting to run to, you're not really going to win. And so, especially with trying to budget or even getting on a diet or exercising, is that sometimes you've got to say no to some stuff, but if there's nothing there to say yes to or a goal that you're trying to get towards, saying no gets harder and harder and harder.
What
and we
type
end
of
up-
goal would you were talking about something very specific, like maybe getting a new car or
Oh, that's a
goal
good
like that?
question. Well, it really depends on the family. When I work with my clients and families to start budgeting, I want married couples to work together. So whatever the goal is that you two agree upon, if you are married, if you're single, you can kind of pick whatever you want. Maybe it's pay off a credit card or pay off a student loan or pay off your car, or it could be something fun like save for vacation.
Okay, so that's your goal.
Yes.
All right, so we set that goal, and now in order to execute that goal, what do we have to do?
Yes, so you do have to start budgeting, but with setting that goal, make sure that you're not setting too high of an expectation. Don't say, well, I'm going to pay off the credit card in a month, or I'm going to try to get out of debt within the year. It might be too difficult.
At some point, you're going to have to sit down and do the math on this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Make it reasonable, because a lot of us say, oh, I'm going to make a goal way up here, and it just gets too high and we quit too soon.
So do something that's attainable.
Yes, absolutely. And baby steps to say, okay, well, if I want to pay off this credit card by June, then how much do I need to do each month, and break it down into little baby steps. And then when you have that goal and you know each month here's what I need to do, you can start to put that into your budget, and you work together with a spouse or just maybe an accountability partner to help you with that
An
as well.
accountability partner.
Yes, sir.
I like that. It's sort of like AA, I'm over here in the shoe department and I need some help. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm the same. I'm the same way. It's like, honey, I'm in the drive-through for Chick-fil-A, and you've got to talk me out of it real quick.
Well, you can get a healthy choice
Yeah,
at Chick-fil-A,
this
so
is
it's
true.
probably
This is
money
true.
well spent.
Yes.
So those 3 points again were what now?
Okay, so you want to set a goal.
Right.
You want to start budgeting.
Start budgeting.
And then you want to try to get an emergency fund set up, because if something happens and you don't have the cash sitting around, you've got to borrow money. You've got to put it on a credit card.
I know we talked about that last time, about
Yeah.
that emergency fund, and especially with the holidays, when you're spending like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's very easy to lose track.
Yes,
And
it
if-
is.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of, and maybe that's your goal for next year, is that I'm just going to save up for Christmas. I'm going to have a Christmas fund where let's put $50 away, $25, whatever you can afford, every month up until Christmas, because I don't know if you do this, but Christmas comes every December. And just every time. It just happens. And so what that could be your goal is just, I want to save up for Christmas next year so we don't do this again.
My wife is very good at that. She's had a Christmas club since she was a little girl.
Yes.
And now here we are, married 30 years. She still has a Christmas club.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it works
Yeah.
great. And so once you have that first goal, pick only one. That's the most important, is just pick one. And then after a couple months, once you get used to the budgeting and getting towards that goal, you can add maybe a second or a third. But don't try to do 3 things at the same time either, because that sets that high expectation you don't really want to get towards.
So where does a family start with a budget? I know we set the goal.
Yes.
We want to start with a budget. Do we just sit down with a blank piece of paper and just start?
Well, and we can talk about it more this next week, but with the budget is a lot of families will write down all their bills, and they'll just make sure all those bills are paid. But that's not the best way to budget. Best way to budget is a zero balance budget, where You got so much money coming in for the month, you plan where every dollar goes before the month starts, and that's your plan.
So there's got to be some sort of template to start out with.
Yes,
you know?
yes, and we can talk more about it but next time as well.
Unless you're the U.S. government, you really can't. You can't print money up.
No,
and you can't
yeah.
spend more than you earn or bring in.
Exactly.
But a lot of people fall into that trap.
Right, and so you get into that trap of the credit card debt and that cycle, and that's the emergency fund that we can talk about as well.
So you need a certain amount of discipline. And just to recap, the 3 points to remember are to set a goal.
Yep, to budget,
and
to start setting up an emergency fund.
Dan Hines from Dan Hines Coaching.
Thank you
so
very much.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for slaughtering my name.
That's all right. It happens all the time.
Thanks for those tips, and we'll be back again next week with you with some more tips on the family budget, and we'll see you next time.